change that would help you stop drinking virtually instantly without any work, without any rehab, or without anything like that. What if it was as simple as just changing your mind? Well, today that's what we're going to talk about. Is there perspective out there that will stop you from drinking once and for all? Is there something that needs to happen in your mind for you to be able to live a life without drinking? How do you stop thinking about drinking all the time? How do you go through life without drinking, even though your friends and family might be drinking and people at work and coworkers and everyone seems to be drinking? What is that one mindset shift? How important is it? And what did it do for me and Terry when we were getting sober? That's what we're going to talk about today. So, Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I got all these different screens. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. Um, I'm doing good. I have a new perspective. Well, I have been working on perspective, a sober perspective towards alcohol for many years now, and I tell you, it did not come naturally for me. I definitely had kind of a alcoholic thinking going on. Maybe you guys have heard of that, maybe not, but I definitely had that going on, especially when I was drinking, but after I stopped drinking. In fact, that may have been some of the contributing factors to me starting drinking again after I got sober the first time. But it's something that we have to learn. We talk about the perspective you need in sobriety a lot. And our program talks over at talksober.com. We teach you how to develop this perspective a lot. But let's talk get into it a little bit deeper here. And the first thing that we need to recognize is what some of our alcoholic thinking might be. And as active alcoholics, we tend to. I mean, I'm not. We tend to think a certain way. I mean, that's maybe not everybody, and maybe this isn't exactly you, but maybe there's some parts that you might relate to, and one of them is maybe this distorted perception that we get. And what I mean by that is that we kind of have this distorted perception on ourselves that maybe alcohol isn't really ruling my life. I've got control of this thing, and maybe we might justify why we drink. If you had the problems that I had, you drink too. I remember doing that all the time. Come home from a tough day at work, it's like, jeez, I need a drink. That was definitely a very common occurrence for me. I worked in a very very busy kitchen as a chef, and man, I had some hard days, and I felt that the alcohol would take away some of that edge and some of the stress about what's going on the next day, or maybe the relationship problems that I tended to have because of alcohol. I'm going to have a drink so that I feel better. Alcohol started to become the answer. That was my kind of my alcoholic thinking. As alcoholics, we might have this all or nothing type of perception on life. Is that things like I have to do everything as and have as much fun as I possibly can, and that might include the excessive drinking. We go out to drink, and it's like a lot of times it wouldn't be I'm going out to have a couple of drinks. It would be I'm going to the wine country, and I'm going to go to 10 wineries today, and taste at every one of them, and taste every taste at every one of them. And that was kind of the thinking that I would go through many times. And just another thing that we might be that might make us drink, or just allow us to continue to drink, is that justification. And it's a justification can come in different ways, and one of them might be, I don't I don't drink that much. I can control my drinking. I'm okay. I've never been arrested. I've never gotten in trouble because of alcohol. That's one I hear pretty often, and I've never had negative consequences. Or the next step might be, oh yeah, that yeah, I messed up that one time and I got in trouble, and I have control of this thing. I'm not going to do this again. It's okay. I'm all right. Or like I just said before, this happened at work and I need a drink. We tend to justify these things, and that's kind of the crux of some of the alcoholic thinking that we have. For me, when I was in the crux of my alcohol drinking, um, I thought these things all the time. I lived for alcohol. Everything I did was had alcohol related in there somewhere, as far as do I have enough? Do I have the money to go get it? Do I need to hide it so nobody calls me out on how much I'm drinking? Things like that. I justified it in many ways, and I tried to do everything I could to hide it from other people. And when we get sober, there's this shift, and this doesn't happen right away with so many people. It didn't happen right away with me, but there was a pretty big shift. Now before I got sober, I definitely hit this bottom. You've probably all heard of the bottom that most people have to hit, and for some people it's a lot lower than others. Some people never have those legal and relationship consequences. Maybe they're just starting to really feel it, and they realize alcohol is not causing too much of a problem, and others may lose everything for their bottom. For me, I came pretty close to losing everything, and that kind of woke me up, and it made me shift my thinking and start to think about what do I need to do to stay sober. And I had to learn a lot of things. I'd lived for decades with alcohol as in a big part of my life, and that's kind of where I was. And but one of the things that happened was I started to think clearly. I started to understand the main thing, which is that chemical dependency is what was controlling my thoughts. That's what it was. It's as simple as that. The alcohol chemical dependency, it changed my perspective on life and on myself and on alcohol. I thought I needed it, and that was huge. And once I started to realize that, then I realized I could start to work on what do I need to do to not take that drink, because cravings still happen. We still need or want that escape from problems in our life. Usually when we first get sober, we still have a lot of problems in our life, and how do we get out of them? We don't feel good. I certainly didn't. I was super sick for months after I got sober, and we're my mind is thinking I need some relief from this. It was tough, but that was one of the things, was that clarity and starting to think rationally. If I have a drink, I've proved it to myself many times. If I have that drink, I'm going to go back down that rabbit hole of that the alcohol had caused and that I had caused because of alcohol. And that was a big eye opener for me. But another thing that's we talk about here, and this one's kind of harsh, but what I had to realize that and that's you, if you're trying to stop drinking or stay sober, you're responsible for your own sobriety. Sure, everybody in my life, they're like, awesome. I'm glad you're getting sober. And, let me know if I can help you at all. That's, of course, everybody wants to support you if you have people left in your life when you get sober. But, and that was the case with me. People want to help me, but still, I'm the one that was a professional hider of alcohol. I could hide my drinking no problem. So I had to take on the accountability myself. I had to be the person that was going to make and keep myself sober. And that was huge. And it's hard. It's not easy at first. So that's why if you've gone to AA meetings, you get a lot of the newcomers in there, and they're like, I've been to 4 meetings today. And some people need that. Some people need to they're just trying to hold themselves accountable and get as much support as they can. But some of the other things that I did was, like, I tried to keep a balanced perspective. For me, it wasn't the 4 or 5 AA meetings a day. It was starting to build this life that I can enjoy. And obviously, life isn't completely enjoyable. We got things we have to take care of, especially when we first get sober. But I started to do things I enjoyed, and that was part of getting that balance, and making sure that I'm doing other things like getting enough sleep and trying to eat a little better. My first focus was not drinking, so I didn't eat super healthy when I got sober, but I did try to slowly improve my life. I went to the doctor to make sure that I didn't have any medical issues that I needed to deal with, and the ones that I did have, we started to get on the road to recovery and fixing what was wrong. And that was, and as I've kind of alluded to, is I really focused on recovery. What do I need to do to stay sober today? And that was it. Is okay. I'm gonna. For me, there wasn't really any online stuff. I went to meetings, and so okay, which meeting am I going to today? Not do I feel like going, or am I, or or whatever. It's I picked. I was like, which one am I going to? And that's what I did. Is I just did that. Hung out with sober alcoholics, things like that. So how do we get this perspective? It's it can be a challenge. And as I've just alluded to, there's lots of things to do, in sobriety. Go to meetings, start to enjoy life. What about those things that you did that you enjoyed doing before alcohol really took over your life? Like, I don't know, water skiing, hiking, biking, whatever it is, reading books, painting, whatever you like to do before that maybe you weren't doing because alcohol was in your life or was took over your life. Some of those things, and that's the stuff that I really focused on. And there's ways to really try to think, and this is a practice. It's not something that you can just change overnight necessarily, and it's not something that you may see the benefits immediately. But some of the things can be like just focusing on the benefits of sobriety and the stupid little benefits. Like for me, one thing I noticed in early sobriety was like going to the supermarket at 10 p.m. and going shopping for food. I could never do that at 10 p.m. at night when I was drinking. I was hammered. And I'd always laugh because, here I have a basket full of groceries and everybody else in line has alcohol. That's what they're doing, and and whatever. That's fine. But I thought that was pretty awesome is that I could do that. Um, I've always had dogs. I've had a couple of nights where all of a sudden there's something wrong with the dog in the middle of the night and I need to take the dog to emergency. And I could do that. That's a benefit of sobriety. Or just being aware and there and being able to help people that might be having a problem at any time of day. They can call me. I can say, "Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. I can come over and help you with whatever you need help with. No problem." And that's huge in sobriety is being able to just focus on these things that not drinking alcohol has given me. And on top of that, I can stay positive now. Yeah, there was a lot of problems when I got sober. I had things to deal with. But at the same time, every day I was like, hey, I don't really crave a drink. Yeah, I got that occasional craving, but I can control that. I don't have to act on it. This is pretty cool. I enjoy this. This is great being sober. And as your sobriety progresses, you start to realize more and more that of the great things that can happen when you're sober, when it's huge. But some of the other things are like to do. Like what about okay, you got to go to the wedding or the party or whatever. Plan ahead. I had a sponsor early in sobriety, and I'd call him and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to this event and there's going to be alcohol there, and I just want to let you know. And he's like, all right, cool, man. And he'd just say, hey, you got a problem, give me a call. So maybe having a friend, if you're not in a program or something, a friend that knows what your deal is. And hey, I might need to give you a call just to walk me down in case I start to get a craving or something. Or bring your own car when you go, or bring your own non alcoholic drink. I've talked about this in many of our other shows, but making those plans ahead. Don't just go in there going, yeah, I'm going to go to the bar and I'm going to drink iced tea with my buddies that are all getting hammered and watch the football game. That's a terrible plan. you know, Maybe invite them over or something. Maybe go hang out with some other sober alcoholics and watch the game. Something like that. We do have to sometimes make some make not do some certain things, and that's kind of that's that's really helpful. At least it was for me when I was getting sober. But And, along those same lines as I'm kind of going towards is seeking that support. Um, the Sober Friends, sober program, whatever you can do. For me, I did everything I possibly could to stay sober when I finally got sober. And I still seek that out. These things, it's it's difficult to change these things right away. Our minds our minds have been damaged by alcohol, and they get better, but it doesn't happen overnight. And I mean, the way I notice this is, um, I've been to many, many, many meetings, and I can tell if somebody's even in their first year of sobriety just by what they're talking about. And it's not because they're less than me or anything like that. It's just their mind is still learning. They're learning how to live without alcohol. They're learning how to move forward and get that positive attitude, and the learning to live that sober life. And at the same time, I'll bet there's guys with 30, 40 years that look at me and they're like, yeah, yeah, he's probably only got about a decade or less, and that's it's true. They notice that stuff. It's just because they've developed that sober mindset even more, and and maybe alcohol isn't as much of a threat to them as it is for me, as far as the craving and maybe falling off the wagon. It only With that said, it does only take that one drink for me. I know that one drink will get me down that rabbit hole, and I'll be right back to where I was. But those are kind of some of the things that of the real perspective you need. On the thumbnail of our video, it said, "Why don't you just quit?" I'm wondering, have any of you heard that from friends, family, stuff like that? I heard it. I remember hearing it from a good friend of mine. He's still a good friend of mine, and when I was drinking, he called me out on it, and he said, "Why don't you just quit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I quit for a couple hours, I think." It's just I couldn't do it, or I wouldn't do it. Which one is it? I couldn't or I wouldn't. Probably a combination of both. My mind had been hijacked by alcohol, so I thought I couldn't quit. But really what it was is I wouldn't quit, and I wouldn't seek that help, and I wouldn't go on and take care of it.
I
So
think
I've kind of
it's
gone on for a long time. I should let Marcus get in here. I
yeah, I
always
think
love his
it's
perspective.
interesting because the idea of, and I think did the echo go away? I don't know why it comes in like right when I start talking and then it goes away. Maybe the audio is like getting used to it or something. I think for me, it was the idea of it's not that I wouldn't, it's that I thought I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think the important part is I thought I couldn't. This is the perspective change. The perspective change is in looking at alcohol has hijacked your brain. So everything you're thinking about with an alcoholic brain is with the alcoholic brain. So when someone says, "Why don't you just put it down?" My dad would always say, "Why don't you just put it down? Just put it down." I'm like, "Well, I put it down every time and then I just pick it back up again. I don't know what the problem is." The problem is the perspective of thinking that everything in my life that was going wrong was being helped by alcohol, not caused by alcohol. And once I got sober for a while, I realized that alcohol was causing a lot of the issues. I had alcohol problems. I had problems that were caused by alcohol. I had mental problems that were caused by alcohol and all these certain things. And until I realized that that was the problem, nothing else would change. Nothing else could change because I was manipulated by this alcohol. I remember recently my grandma was in the hospital and they had given her some sort of drug that made her mind very not like she usually is. And she was, she was getting kind of mean and grouchy and dealing with all these things. Now we knew that it was the drug that was doing that. We knew, okay, that's what caused it. It'll go away in a day or two. Um, but with alcohol, we don't know that because for whatever reason, it's not readily accessible. The information isn't out there saying, hey, this is what alcohol does. Probably has to do with the fact that it's a bazillion-dollar industry. But the fact of the matter is it is causing us trouble and pain. It is causing us to think different. Tim says, I've been alcohol free for a good while now, but I have close relatives who continue to abuse alcohol. It's sometimes hard for me to keep my mouth shut and not get preachy. Well, that again is kind of like there's a part in the Bible, interesting book. I don't exactly think the way I used to think about it when I was a preacher, but there's a part in the Bible that says, don't cast your pearls before swine, which means don't give good things to people who can't receive it. And is that to say, oh, hey, everyone is a swine, they just don't understand it, those drunks are swining around? No, that's to say they're blinded and they can't see it. So if you cast your pearls, if you give the good information to them, they are not going to be able to see it. Now, you could take that to mean, oh, well, don't give, good information and don't help people that don't help themselves. Or you could take it to say, why don't I find something else to share with them? Because think about when you were an alcoholic. Maybe some of you are active alcoholics right now. Did you want to hear, hey, just put it down? Hey, you have an alcohol problem. Hey, if you gave up the drink, you'd be a better person. Why did we not want to hear this? Because that was our only lifeline that made things better. For me to go somewhere, I remember I would go to the kids' school. They'd get an award, and I would have to be half plastered to be able to do it because I was so anxious. And it was crazy because it was like that was my way of life, and I didn't see a way out of it. Take my alcohol away. How am I going to function in life? I remember one day you took the alcohol away. I couldn't go get the mail. It was less than a quarter mile away. Couldn't go get it. Couldn't leave the house. I was terrified of myself. I was just terrified all day, every day. Alcohol had hijacked my brain, and trying to get sober with that brain was the stupidest damn thing in the world. But that's the only thing I knew. That's the only thing I understood. No one came to me and said, your brain is messed up. The anxiety you are feeling is not real. The thoughts you have about, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, I'm a worthless drunk, I'm terrible, I'm that, those are not real. Get sober and see how your thoughts change. Get sober and see how you are able to be above your thoughts. Now, it's going to take some learning. It's not going to come overnight. I didn't have a perspective change till about probably 9 months sober. For the first 9 months, I was like, well, this kind of sucks. I want to drink and I can't. And I know if I drink, it's going to be real bad, so I'm not going to. And I clung to that. I was like, that's it. I'm miserable, but I know if I drink, I'm going to be a little bit more miserable. And it's going to set this cycle, and I'll lose everything dear to me. So I'm just going to go to the 90 meetings. I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to do what people tell me to do. And maybe something will happen. And you know what? It did. Something did happen. I was able to see past it by being sober long enough. But most of us don't get sober long enough to have that change. Most of us don't see the way out. Some people I've seen, been sober a long time. They still haven't had what they call a psychic change or a different way of looking at things. And to understand that is key. Understand, you're trying to get sober with a brain that wants to drink because you keep drinking. So why don't you take the drink away? You don't have to take it away forever. 90 days, 180 days, give it a year. You can do anything for a year. I've been on the planet 45 years. You can do anything for a year. A lot of people have done it. Some people have gone to war for a year. Certainly I could not drink for a year. People have gone through terrible situations for a year. So what is it that's stopping me? And I think these little things that you tell yourself, these little pins you put in ideas in your brain is what is going to get you sober. Saying, yeah, okay, I can do it for a year, and then stick to it. All right, I'm not going to do it for a year. Thoughts going to come in. You're going to want to drink. I guarantee it. For the first year, you're going to want to. I could bet on it. But you know what? I don't drink anymore. Well, I really got a craving today. Well, that's fine. You can have cravings all you want if you don't drink anymore. Crave whatever I want. I can crave going to the beach. I can crave a Coke. I can crave a bunch of food. Does that mean I have to have it? No. Think about when you got to go to the doctor and they tell you not to eat for 48 hours. You think you're craving food? Yeah. You think your mind's warped by wanting food? Yeah. Why do you do it? The doctor told you need to do that or something bad going to happen when you go in for that procedure. So you do it. Say, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, alcohol has a little bit different effect because in addition to giving you the craving, it also affects your thoughts. This is why we like it. We like it because it shuts off that voice that says, I'm a loser, I'm a nobody. Introduce yourself to him, you're going to look like an idiot. What did I say here? What did I say there? It turns it off, and you're like, hey, I'm having fun. Who cares? And that was kind of nice. But you know what? That voice in your head that tells you all those things you don't like to hear, you made it up. It's not reality. Just little things you learn throughout society. In life, you're only afraid of two things when you're born: fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. The only two things babies are afraid of. That's it. That's why you have to watch them. I had kids, and you're like, hey, yeah, might not want to go close to the fireplace. They're not afraid of it. It looks pretty cool. Hey, you might not want to, go jumping in the pool. They're not afraid of it. It looks neat. They're afraid of two things. And then along the way, something happens, and you go, well, now I'm afraid of other people. Well, now I'm afraid of public speaking. Now I'm afraid of this. Now I wonder what people think. And there's a very good talk by a guy named Anthony DeMello, and he talks about how we are conditioned by society to care what people think. Like even love. Do you ever wonder why if someone says they have a crush on you or they like you or whatever, you instantly get different feelings? You might have not even thought about the person before. Now all of a sudden, woo, you're off to the races. Why? Programming. It's all programming. And once you realize I am a fallible human being, probably as bad and fallible as they go, I don't know nothing. And my brain can be skewed by anything: lack of sleep, lack of eating, anxiety, societal programming, whatever it is. They were doing something interesting in politics. They were interviewing people on a certain candidate's policies. And that certain candidate has yet to come out with policies. And they were like, well, what do you like about it? And nobody could answer the question, which means they were wrapped up into an idea, emotions, and hype rather than fact. Happens every time, both sides of the aisle, doesn't matter who you are. People get wrapped up into an idea rather than facts, an idea rather than policy. And the same thing happens with our brains. We get wrapped up into emotion rather than fact. Why do we drink? We drink because it makes us feel good. We drink because it makes us not feel bad, right? I mean, blood sugar issues, a Coke, or alcohol. Alcohol is going to do better quick term, right? It's going to fix whatever issues. It's got 1,000,000 calories in it. That's why people who like beer are usually on the heavier side, unless that's all you live on, like I did. But what's going to happen is it's going to tweak your brain, and it's going to make you think different. And it's going to make you not see a way out. But there is a way out. And the way out is step by step, day by day, minute by minute, I don't drink anymore. And when you have the thought, you say, okay, that's the drink making me want to drink. That's the conditioning. I drank a bunch of times, felt better right away. My brain thinks drink, feel better, drink, feel better, drink, feel better. Now I realize that you can feel better with anything. Last night, I was eating my fruit, and I was really tired. Right? I woke up early. I was tired. It was 11 at night. And so I got some apples and watermelon. I was like, man, I instantly woke up. I felt good. I was able to go another couple hours hanging out with the family. My daughter came over. She moved out recently, so we were hanging out. And I was real tired. I had the fruit, woke up. I was like, man, those 5-hour energy people are kind of full of shit. Just go get a fruit. And they spend all this time trying to make candy taste like fruit. Why? Because candy's cheaper and bad for you, and then they got to give you the remedy. But what if I just ate fruit? Like, test this out. You feel like crap, go eat some fruit. right? You need something to dampen your anxiety, get better sleep. Or, God forbid, we stop drinking 10 pots of coffee a day. Right? America wonders why they're anxious. They go to there's a Starbucks every step. I could go get Starbucks before my last Starbucks is empty. And it's like, why do we have anxiety? That's why. And then you get tired and you have a 5-hour energy and you wonder why you have anxiety. Because I had a 5-hour energy. What if I had fruit that was natural? Right? And you start to think about it, and it's like all these things that are natural can actually help us, but they don't contribute to the economy like other stuff, so they're not readily available and known. Luckily, now we have wonderful platforms like YouTube where people can share their results and what helps them, rather than just listening to, meat, it's what's for dinner. Oh, now it's bad for you. Oh, now it's good for you, but you have to have the kind that eats grass, not corn. Oh, corn's real good for you, but now it's not. Now you need to eat this. Oh, watermelon's bad because it has sugar, so you might as well go get some candy. Wait, what? What if I just start listening to my body and my doctor and follow along with things that are good? But all the while, I'm thinking this stuff while I'm literally killing my body with alcohol. That's the insanity of alcoholism. And once we realize the insanity is brought by alcohol, the thoughts are brought by alcohol, and nobody sat there and told you that your thoughts are not you. There's a fantastic book called The Imp of the Mind, IMP, The Imp of the Mind. Really helped me because, we go through life thinking our thoughts make us good or bad. And I think a lot of problems could be solved by people understanding this. A thought is neither good nor bad. It's a chemical impulse in the brain based on things that were input. The brain is an input-output type of thing, right? What you put in it is what you get out of it. People who watch crime shows constantly think there's a bunch of crimes going on. People who watch shows about cooking are probably thinking about cooking a lot. Terry thinks about cooking a lot because he's a chef. Is that because he was born with a chef brain? No, it's because he sat there and thought about food. He thinks, oh, hey, there's a cucumber tree or plant or whatever cucumbers grow on. And, he sees things in terms of food. To a finance person, they see the world in terms of numbers.
Still trying to figure out how to make cucumbers taste good. No, I'm just kidding.
Put them in watermelon with mint and water.
Ah, yes.
There you go. Mint is
Greek
pretty
salad.
good with cucumber. There, Greek salad is, there you go. Just put a bunch of vinegar on them. Turn them into like almost pickles, right? But that's the thing, is we look at the world in terms of our programming. And once you realize this, it's like, oh, hey, now for the alcoholic, unfortunately, Terry can probably say the same thing. Unfortunately, when we were drinking, we looked at the world in terms of having drink and not having drink. Our life revolved around it.
Yeah.
Thought about it more than work, thought about it more than cooking, everything.
It becomes very black and white, definitely. As far as, yay, I get to go do this with alcohol. Oh, bummer. There's not going to be any alcohol here. Very black and white.
Exactly. And understanding that, I think, is key. And the perspective change that we need is alcohol is not our friend. Alcohol is doing no good for us. We just think it is. You're like that person you're like the girl who has the abusive boyfriend. And he beats her and he beats her and he beats her. And constantly you say, why don't you leave? He's a bad guy. And she says, well, sometimes he's good. And when we met, things were good. And he doesn't always hit me. How many punches do you need to take for that to be wrong? A half a one. You need to stop the first one and walk away, because that's abuse. But we let alcohol abuse us. A lot of people say alcohol abuse, alcohol abuse. I've never abused alcohol. I drank too much of it, but I never abused it. I always finished the last drop. I always put it in the nice, fancy cups. I didn't abuse it. Alcohol abused me. It kicked my ass and told me things that were lies. And it made me feel like I needed it and depended on it to live. And that's why that analogy of the gal that's in an abusive relationship is so powerful. You are that girl or guy, if that bugs you, right? But you're that person. And you're being abused And people are coming along and they don't know how to tell you to get out of it. Much like that. Like nobody knows how to tell the girl to get out of it because she can't see her way out. Her brain has been manipulated. That's why they call gaslighting and all this stuff of abuse. That's why they have those, so that you can see it. Say, oh, this is where this goes. And there is now a box in your mind that you can't ignore anymore, unless you drink enough to ignore it, which would defeat the whole point. There's a box in your mind that says alcohol is abusive. It's not working for me. It will only cause bad if I continue to use it. Might make me feel good for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even a couple days. But in the long run, I'm going to end up back where I started in an abusive relationship. And this time, I will have programmed my mind for another trip. That's why it's hard to come back from a relapse, because you keep programming, oh, it wasn't as bad. Well, now I have all these thoughts about having relapse, which are bad. Now I have to drink to get rid of those. And if I just stop drinking and I say, you know what? Screw it. No matter what, I'm not going to drink, even if my ass falls off. Well, you don't understand. I had a rough day. But if the girl had a rough day at work, should she go back to the abusive relationship? Well, he'll hold me. Yeah, but he also hits you. You need to get the hell out of there. Like, what are you doing? And you need to think about it in real terms, because that's what alcohol is. It is the abusive relationship. You're getting your ass kicked, and you keep going back. And it's time to say, enough is enough. Get the hell out of here. I'm going to do everything I need to do to get and stay sober, because I know that that is abusive. Go have another glass of abuse. Try past the bar. This is what I did in my sobriety. So to have another glass of insanity. Have another glass of abuse. Go to the bar, sit up on them stools, and ladle some booze and abuse into your brain. Oh, Marcus, you don't understand. There's a bunch of people at the bar who don't have that problem. Yep, alcohol hasn't abused them. Drink enough, it will. It's how chemical dependency works. You give the Pope enough alcohol, he's going to be an alcoholic. Fact. That is a fact. Give Marcus and Terry enough alcohol, got to be an alcoholic. And once you realize that the perspective change is get alcohol off the table at all costs, try it out for a year. See how it works. I'm glad I did it. 10 years sober, I would want nothing better than to not have alcohol ever again. I don't miss it. I don't crave it. I don't want it. Sometimes I do miss the taste, but it's like, is it really that big of a deal? I mean, they have mocktails and all kinds of crap now, which tread lightly. I didn't start doing that until 5-6 years sober. But even if there wasn't that, even if I had nothing that would give me that flavor back, I'd still be okay. I was for 5 years. And starting to understand, you know what? I don't drink anymore. Well, what about one? Well, one would be drinking, and I don't drink anymore, so I guess one would not work. And starting to understand, I'm not going back to that abusive relationship, no matter how good it might seem at the time. I mean, what if your ex comes in and they're abusive, and all of a sudden they're like totally smoking hot and rich? That's what alcohol does. It's like, hey, look at me. There's this new type of booze. You got to try that. Right? I mean, you're going to miss out. But it's like, wait a minute. Have I not had enough alcohol for like my entire street in their entire lifetime? Don't think I need it. I'm not going back to the abusive relationship. And that's the perspective that got me sober and keeps me sober today. Blackjack says it's hard when you have a devil on each shoulder. You can have a devil on your shoulders, on your head, in your pocket, and right next to you. What is it? It's a figment of your imagination. Thoughts are not real. I know there's a world of law of attraction. People look at the law of attraction. What we think, we manifest. There's even a verse in the Bible, as a man thinketh, so is he. And they say thoughts are things and thoughts are reality. No, they're not. Thoughts are chemical impulses in your brain, controlled by your environment. That's it. The fact that you think there's a devil on each shoulder doesn't mean anything. The devil was something made up by someone who thought, oh, well, let's make something up called the devil, a little red guy over here telling you bad things. That's just a chemical impulse in your brain. You call it the devil. Alcohol makes me think devil thoughts, right? Thoughts that aren't good. So, you look at it and you're like, that's all it is, chemical impulses in the brain. They got devil on the shoulder, he pops up, says, hey, why don't you go drink? Okay, why don't you shut up? Next, you have 60,000 thoughts in your brain every day, according to scientists. I don't know who you counted them, but that's a lot. If 1,000 of them are about drinking, why do you dwell on those 1,000? Why not pick a different 1,000 to dwell on? What if instead, every time you had a craving, every time that devil came on your shoulder and said, go drink, what if you helped someone? What if you did something for work? What if you read a book? What if you listened to a talk? What if you just went out in nature and sat? What if you did something else? The problem is we think there's a fight, but there's not. I remember when I had anxiety real bad, I realized anxiety is the fighting of anxiety. It's like this, okay? You have a mild headache on a Sunday afternoon because, like me, football gives you a headache, and my wife likes to watch football. I don't know why. It gives me a headache just every time I watch it. And so I get a mild headache. And I'm sitting there with my mild headache, and I could probably drink a glass of water and it'll go away. But what do I do instead? Damn this headache. God, I hate it. I get a headache every Sunday. This sucks. What does that do? Makes the headache worse. So I'm literally making the headache worse by dwelling on the headache, and the pain of thinking about the pain is worse than the actual pain. Same thing with anxiety. The anxiety caused by thinking about and trying to fight and get rid of anxiety is worse than the actual anxiety. What if you just sat there and you said, well, fuck it, I got anxiety. Fuck it, I got a craving. Big deal. I want alcohol. Of course I want alcohol. I had 4,000 eggs worth. Of course I'm going to want alcohol. That's what I had a bunch of times. If you eat a bunch of Skittles, guess what you're going to want? Skittles. I love cigars. I quit smoking cigars. Why? Because when I have one, I want another one. It's just a fact. It's how it is. And so I don't have one. Why? Because then it won't trigger the next one. It's like going to the gym. Nobody wants to go to the gym after they haven't gone to a gym for a while. Nobody. Then you go to the gym, and it's easier to go the next time, and the next time, and the next time. So I'm going to quit drinking. Oh, it totally is. Yeah. And I'm going to quit drinking, and it's going to be easier with the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say about that.
That's it?
That's it. Just 45 minutes of ranting. That's all.
Good job, Marcus. I relate to so much of what you said. And blackjack, I went through similar but different story as you went through. And congratulations on getting that month and a half sober. Congratulations to all of you with your sobriety. And if you're still having trouble, or even if you are sober and you just want a little more support, we have a program over at talksober.com, and you can help support what we do. We're trying to get our word out to more and more people every day and help people learn how to stay sober, how to get sober in a real way, in a way that actually works and where you can get lasting sobriety. So go over there and check it out. You can join our Facebook group. Just give me a request that you want to join, and I'll check you out, make sure you're not some sort of bot, and I'll let you in. And there's lots of people over there that can help support you in your sobriety. And you can also get a private call with Marcus and myself if you'd like. And once again, that's over at talksober.com. There's a button there that says private call with Marcus and Terry, or you can join our program and help support us in what we do.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, guys, and we will see you next week.
Thank you,
if
everyone.
I can find the button here. Some button over here somewhere. Where'd it go? I lost the button. All right. Have a good one, guys.